Welcome back to a new video here in SUALVI. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can blur faces and probably use the same to blur objects if you want to. Now, make sure to stay all the way until the end so I can show you how you can create this effect. You can always mix these up with some other effects to create something pretty cool looking. Now, you'll see here is the flat version. And in this video, I'm going to show you two ways that you can do this. One is using Fusion and the other one is using the color tab. Now let's get started with the Fusion one. We are gonna right click here and then we're gonna go to Fusion. Now that we're in Fusion, the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna press Ctrl Spacebar and we are going to add a tracker. Now we're gonna position this tracker right in the middle of the face of our subject. And you can see the face here. If it's not all the way too accurate, it's not too big of a deal, but if you want to move it a little bit more, you can do that by using these controls here, or you can move these again here and observe this section. Okay, now we're in the first frame. Make sure you're in the first frame and you can track forward. After the tracking is done, we can simply look at it and make sure that there's no any like glitches or it doesn't jump around and it's good. So the next thing we can do is we're gonna go to the tracker and we're gonna go to operations and we're gonna change the operation to match move. Now here you want to copy these and paste the media one and we're gonna connect these to the tracker. So basically you have the same and this one is following the tracker. Now on this one we're gonna add a mask or an ellipse mask and we're gonna make it small. We can actually zoom in and make sure that it's adjusted right around our subject's face. There it goes. Now here what we can do is press Ctrl Spacebar again and we're gonna add a blur which is called Mosaic Blur. That is pretty much it. The effect is already done. You can play around with the frequency and the smoothness strength, but for this one I wouldn't recommend changing it because otherwise it will, if you take it too high, it will just basically disable the effect. Here you can play around with the frequency, which basically means how many pixels you want to be inside that mask. You see here, and the problem here is that if you go too low, the subject is gonna be visible and we don't want that. And if you go too high, it's sort of the same thing. You can still see and determine what the character sort of looks like, and you'll probably have some AI in the future, or maybe there's already one that can fix these and like actually reveal the face if it is pixelated like these. So I would recommend you to stay within the 100 and 150 range. That's pretty good, and you can play with the border type, but that's not really useful in this case because we have the mask right in the center, and that is pretty much it for these. Now we can play these and we'll see the tracker doing its job. Now if you want, you can make the size of these a little bit bigger and then add a little bit of softness on the edges so that the sharpness is not too noticeable on the edges of our mask here. Now that's pretty much it, how to do it in the first method. Now for the second method, we're gonna go to the second clip that we have here and we're gonna go to the color tab. Here in the color tab, what you wanna do is right click and then add a node and add a serial node. Make sure you're in the first frame of our clip. We're gonna add a circle mask here and we're gonna make sure to adjust the size of our mask here. Now this mask, it's a little bit more advanced than the Fusion tracker, and the issue with this is that sometimes it will do a little bit extra and more than what we needed to do, right? So in this case, we're gonna go to the tracker here and you will see by default these are gonna be selected, all of them. If we track it like these, sometimes we will see the tracker sort of like going around and moving and dragging out. So if that happens, you want to make sure to take the 3D out and maybe also the tilt out when you're tracking. You'll see the tracker here is already moving. Once you have the tracker in place in the way that you want it, all that you have to do is go to the Open Effects tab here and find the Mosaic Blur again, and by adding it, it will add these effect onto our mask like that. So whichever method that you use is fine. Both are pretty much the same. One of them might be a little bit simpler sometimes. That's why sometimes I use the Fusion one better in this case. Now onto the tip that I mentioned at the beginning. This is not only useful for simple like blurring. Now if you go here to the blur and then change with the processing, which takes away the red colors or the green colors or the blue colors. It's up to you which one you leave up, but you can play around with, and you can sometimes keyframe these so that you can get some pretty interesting effects here like that. It's not that crazy right now, but one even crazier thing that you can do here in Fusion is that you can actually mix more effects in here easily. Now if we add not a blur, but we add a glow here, for example, we get this really intense sort of face that's not really the same as our main subject's face. If we take it out, you'll see it's not really the same, but it's sort of like a weird X-ray version, and it adds a really interesting effect. And here on the glow, you can also mix around with the red, greens, and blues to like find out what effects looks cool. Here you can play around with the glow size and all that stuff too, but it's up to you. Now you can add as many effects as you want and mix more things, but it's a really cool effect that you can play around with if you want to make music videos or things like that. As you have seen in the intro of this video, I played around with and I added a few keyframes and animations to do that. Here in Fusion, you have the freedom of adding more effects and playing around and animating more things. Now that's pretty much it for this video. I hope that you enjoyed this video, you find it helpful and interesting, and that you can use this effect to create some pretty cool and awesome things. I hope to see you in the next video here in SUALVI. Bye.